Well, today I want to share with you some verses from the book of Esther. There are two wonderful verses, uh, many more than two, but here's two. For if you remain completely silent at this time, this is Mordecai speaking to Esther, and he had asked her to intercede before the king for the people of the Jews. And he said, if you remain completely silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise for the Jews from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. Yet who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? And then that's Esther chapter 4, verse 4. And then Esther found favor in the sight of the king. And the king held out to her the golden scepter that was in his hand. Then Esther went in and near and touched the top of the scepter. Esther chapter 5, verse 2. So Esther boldly went into the king and risked her life, because if the king had rejected her, he could have killed her. You see, Esther was uniquely placed by God's grace to be able to intercede with King Ahasuerus. All Esther had to do was to go boldly to the king and hope that he would extend mercy to her by holding out the scepter. He didn't have to, but he could have killed her. But it is an astonishingly simple picture of the church and of the believer and of our unique place as the bride of Christ. Esther was the bride of Ahasuerus, the beloved, and we are the beloved of Christ. Esther melted the heart of the king. And God's heart is moved as he looks at the believer clothed with all the beauty of Christ. Ahasuerus was willful, nasty, unpredictable, while God is faithful and welcoming. Esther risked her life knowing that the king might be in a bad mood and reject her. But believers know that with God there is no variation or shadow of turning. That's in James chapter 1, verse 17. Well, Esther held in her hands the fate of the Jews, and believers hold tremendous power by the simple fact that God has promised to hear us when we pray. Governments, individuals, and demonic strongholds all yield to the sovereign decrees of God in answer to prayer. It is for this reason that prayer is the one thing that Satan dreads and that he opposes more fiercely than any other activity. God has committed himself to answer prayers that are according to his will and that are prayed from pure motives. The phrase, such a time as this, well, that can be written large over every phase of human history. Church unity is maintained more by prayer than by committees, I can assure you, and conflicts are resolved. Sinners are saved. Ministries are blessed and flourish through prayer. There is no danger in approaching the King of Kings, but there is disaster if we hold back and neglect the place of prayer. Whatever our capacity to pray, we are simply to boldly step forward and pray. God bless.